Just listen to
Yeah,
me, Sonny. Just consider this, Sonny. Don't fly off the handle.
yeah. It must have been tough though for those kids, especially Fredo, because
It's never going to get any better.
well, yeah, but here goes Dad, and he's got the sons, but yet he goes out and brings another kid in. Now not through any ill will. I mean, according to the story. And by the way, it's Michael Knight, New York, Vinnie, Mikey, and Vinnie. We are here on a Monday morning that I just found out just moments ago that Robert Duvall, the great actor, has passed away. Of course, probably most well known for his role as Tom Hagen in Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, The Consigliere. Uh, but we were just saying that a lot of great roles that this guy played in his career. He had some great, go look up and down his movie bibliography, I guess, and
His IBDVM,
his credits, and you'll find,
IMDb. That's it, IMDb.
um, yeah, it had a, it was always an odd thing in the story to me that that they brought this kid in who wasn't a Sicilian or wasn't Italian even, brought this kid into the family environment, and it was almost like you were stepping over the other brothers
Mm-hmm.
From the get-go. Now maybe he did that to get them a little more to pay attention to the family business. I don't know. They never really um, touched on that part of the story, but it always stuck in my mind. What what was the reason, or was it just simply just charity that he just felt a need to be charitable
Well,
to
remember,
Tom?
the Godfather, as a young man, lost his father to the violence of the island. And he knew what it was like to suddenly be without a father,
Yeah,
violently being separated from your family, and to lose your mother in the same dispute.
yeah. It must have been it couldn't have been an easy life over there with all that stuff going on. In the way that those people controlled
Yeah.
um, things, everything. Soup to nuts had no compassion for um, life or people or kids, or they didn't care. It just if you crossed them, they killed you. Woman,
And
men.
remember,
That now, luckily, they softened up a little bit when they got here.
remember the announcement they were making in the town. If you're keeping them, you're only hurting yourself. We'll find him, and we'll find you too. We'll put this right, but don't get involved. Don't put yourself in between us and this person that we're looking for. Don't be a fool, because we'll kill you for it.
Uh, and it was always interesting to me that they took kind of the opposite tack of that when they got to the United States. The
Yeah.
mafia was notorious for leave the kids out of it, leave the wives out of it. You don't go after somebody's family, you don't go after somebody's kids unless they're directly involved in the business. But um, you just didn't see or hear about anything like that happening.
Bruno Tatalia knew that Tom was not part of the muscle end. Everybody knew that.
Yeah.
And he did counsel them for peace and for settlements that would not damage the busyness.
Well, I mean, you could make a good case in reading about all the stuff in The Godfather. It was Tom Hagen that started that the move that was eventually completed by Michael, which was to move the family out of the mafia business and into the legitimate businesses.
The commission.
You could see the future, and it wasn't going to be with guns and violence. It was going to be with the pen and the banks. you know, and the bankers and all of that.
Right.
So, well, may he rest in peace. That's not shocking news because
Lonesome Dove is my favorite of his, besides The Godfather. His role in Lonesome Dove as the colonel, the cowboy, the rough rider, the tough guy, the fellow who always had time to beat up 3 tough guys in town before he went to breakfast, and managed to be an older man, all white hair and experience, and never shying away from another confrontation on the street. Lonesome Dove was a great story.
yeah, yeah. You know what? I never seen Lonesome Dove after because I'm not a big Western guy, so it's kind of slipped through the cracks. But I'll go. I'm sure that TCM will run an entire retrospective of Duvall's work and put up as many movies as they probably have the rights to of his.
And remember that series of movies he made with Michael Caine? He was a tough guy from the rural side of town. Michael Caine was his good friend, and some kids in the neighborhood wanted to get tough with him. Thought that
Yes,
these two men were no match for them, and they took him to school.
No, what was? No, I guess I was thinking. I was thinking of something else. No,
I can't think of the name.
I can't remember the name of that movie.
I know the story well.
Yeah, I just saw something similar, but I don't think it was Michael Caine. Anyway, well, that's not a good way to start the week off. You would think that starting the week off, we would start it off with more of a happy note, because we didn't have a bucket full of news about it.
The it man.
But it is President's Day, and I don't know. Are people less cognizant, more cognizant of it? I think because of the current situation with the presidents. Although it's not a day to celebrate the current president.
No, we don't have a date to celebrate this current president. There's nothing we can come up with. There's not a Black Plague Day that I'm not aware of, right? The way everybody gets together and talks about how much they love the Black Plague.
I haven't seen one.
Well, when we get one of those, then we'll have a Trump Day.
Yeah, it will. But it is a day that we celebrate the presidency, the office of the presidency. When we were growing up, we celebrated not the office of the presidency, but we celebrated 2 presidents who people considered to be our greatest presidents, which was Lincoln on the 12th and Washington on the 22nd.
Or Lincoln on the 5 and Washington on the 1.
Yeah, you could go with that. You could go that way too. They were money presidents. They were literally on the money.
If you love me, you'll give me a bill with my picture on it, my portrait.
Was there one of those 2 that you gravitated toward, one more than the other?
They both had extraordinarily hard times in office and hard times in service. Washington, I don't know how many times he died or came close to death in the Revolutionary War. Congress was not paying his troops. Congress was not paying him. Congress was not supporting him in the way they had promised to. He was fighting the British. It was the winter. He had crossed the Delaware. He was freezing to death in the countryside. And for him to stand against all that and still achieve what he wanted to do in terms of the British was an extraordinary achievement. Not that Lincoln wasn't highly thought of and deserving of the adoration of the nation, but Washington had a hard time because he didn't have a nation yet. He didn't have a country. He didn't have anything official. He was riding around on the countryside with guys on freezing horses. Not a good way to start the war against the number 1 empire on the planet.
Yeah,
So I
he
think they're both well deserving, and they should have their own day.
yeah,
Like,
I have never liked the presidents that the one day for both of them. I thought I'm kind of in your corner there, where we for years and years and years we had it where we celebrated each one individually,
mhm.
and now all of a sudden we celebrate them. I don't even know whose idea it was to mix the 2 days up. I guess they didn't want to give people one more day because they were going to have to give Martin Luther King Day. Um, but I don't know why we combined them. I think both deserve, like you say, deserve their own day and deserved our focus on each individual one for the day. But I don't know if
Mhm.
people are focusing on that kind of stuff anyway anymore. You know, I don't know. When it's President's Day, do the teachers say to these kids, "Well, let's learn about this president, or let's learn about that president," or
I think
that kind?
so.
I wonder.
I think my granddaughter in third grade is learning about the presidents today.
Good, good. I wonder where
Good school.
you wonder sometimes. What's going on, how people are learning. You hear so much. And, luckily I have a good friend. It's a third grade teacher, and I kind of get a little bit of what's going on, a little bit of of an idea of what's being taught and what's going on.
Does it sound familiar? Are you approving of what you hear?
Does what sound familiar?
Are you approving of the curriculum, the way you
Yeah,
hear it
her
being?
curriculum, yeah, but she's a very I don't think she's an ordinary third grade teacher. I think she does things far beyond what a normal teacher does, in that she dresses up as a professor for science class. A couple times a year. This Professor Higginbotham, she calls him, makes an appearance in the classroom
I
and
see.
makes
Very
science
good.
fun. And she's got a lot of acting blood in her, so a lot of dramatic arts blood in her. So she tends to make it fun like that. Um, she's a very how would I say? What would I say? How would I say? She's a very active, very concerned teacher. Um,
Conscientious.
she's
Easy
conscientious.
for
She's
me to say.
concerned about her kids. She she cares that they're learning. She takes it seriously. She's not there just for the job. She's there because she feels like it's a calling of hers, which is always interesting because for many years she was in the music business. She got out and she said, I want to do something more meaningful with my life than calling up radio stations and telling them to play records.
Play my
So
45 or play my 45.
so she got into teaching, and she's done quite well at it. I'm very proud to know her, because she's I could, I would love to, when they always have these teacher of the year things,
Mhm.
uh, not all the time, but a lot of times they send in a letter, to CNN or whatever it is. You should look at this woman because she does this, that, and the other thing, and who knows? Maybe someday she'll get it. Maybe someday she'll be lucky enough to get it. And she's the kind of person that I know, if she got like a $10,000 prize for her teaching skills, she'd
She'd
go and
spend it on
spend,
the class.
$2,000 on herself and spend the other eight buying stuff for a classroom.
No doubt.
That's
And so many
that's
teachers are that way. Fantastic.
yeah, yeah. That's what she's about. That's what she does. And any parent who has her as their kids have her as a teacher is damn lucky. So
Well, and
it's
that list of presidents that we have, which there are now 47.
five.
We've had 47,
Well,
47 presidents
is it there 40 because Trump's been president twice?
twice.
And was Roosevelt president twice, Teddy?
No,
No, he that's right. He lost a second. So yeah, so there's been 47, but there's been 45, but the office has had 47.
right. I bring that up because there were a lot of no-shows in the presidency. We put guys in there that didn't, but William Henry Harrison, uh, Millard Fillmore. There's a long list. I can't think of them all right now, but we had a lot of guys who were presidential but did not achieve anything, weren't important men. They were not serious men. They had the political wherewithal to achieve the presidency, but not the intellectual means. And it didn't bother them. They were happy being stupid. And we've had a number of those, but what we haven't had is a bad president that was evil with intent, whose intent and actions were going to harm the nation. We're going to endanger the citizens. We're going to make life more difficult for everybody and do so on purpose. We just never had anybody that was this negative, this able to motivate himself to the dark side and not care what happened to the country and lie about tariffs and lie about the taxes and lie about the price of everything, lie about anything that comes across his desk, and happy to do it and getting away with it. It's fascinating that we were vulnerable to evil for so long, 245 years, and finally it caught up with us, and we were unable to dodge the bullet. We were unable to get out of the grip of a bad president.
Well, yeah, there have been some, some bad ones. Obviously, one you didn't mention was before Lincoln was Buchanan, who did as much as he could, I believe. And I mean, I'm not a Buchanan historian, but did as much as he could to kind of get this country into a civil war. Appointed toward a civil war.
They didn't see the downside of it. They thought it was probably going to be good to shake out the country.
Yeah, they figured, he had a slogan which was, make the U.S. great again. And he didn't. He made it. He drove it toward war and death and destruction, and just a horrible period in our country's history.
And the guy that followed Lincoln, Andrew Johnson, was a ghastly president and put together the reconstruction of the South ahead of all other elements of his presidency. He was from Texas, but he's an ardent supporter of the South and the Southern way of doing government, doing America, the Southern way.
They have a different system down there.
And he was a bad, bad man.
It's there's not a lot you can say about either one of those, Buchanan or Johnson.
Right.
And I don't think that makes Lincoln stand out any better because those two were so bad. But it certainly was a country that was careening toward a worse fate than the Civil War. If you could believe that there could be one, which was a breakup of the Union and two different philosophies, two different nations, two different ideas of slavery, probably a lot more death online, because if the slaves had been freed, I don't think that they probably would have taken it a lot longer, that there would have been some kind of
uprising,
revolution, some organization. I mean, the slavery was coming to an end in this country, one way or the other. And if the Southerners didn't want to believe that, maybe they might have gotten another year or two or three out of it. But I'm not sure. If they would have won the Civil War and gotten their own nation, I don't think slavery would have lasted down there a whole lot longer. I think it was just an idea that, once you give people a taste of freedom, it's kind of hard to put it back in a box,
Yes, you can't You can't go on. You can't take a step forward. And the harshest thing, and I had to have this explained to me, is that all nations who fight civil wars never finish with them. That divides the nation for the time of the war. The war is over, but the nation does not reunite. And try as they may, you can't make Arkansas fit next to New York. The lifestyle, the motivation, the citizenry, the history, the future of all those places are so removed one from the other that they're happy to continue that civil war in a number of ways: financial, historical, education, commitment to certain type of culture. And so we're never going to shake this, that we had a civil war. We have to learn to live with the fact that we are divided. It's harsh. It's harsh rules. Harsh rules when you fight a civil war. You'd think, what's the downside of this? We're going to settle this all. No, you're not. You're going to fix it so it can't be settled ever.
Well, it also makes you think: is this country too big to be ruled by one president? I mean, Russia does it, but it has done it with the Soviet Union, now Russia, but they do it by a dictatorship. They do it by one guy being in charge, and the rest of the stuff is window dressing.
All you need to know is that the name of the paper is called Pravda, which means truth. Your paper is called Truth. Now I think I understand what you're doing. Now I know why the paper. Now I know why the paper's cheap.
Pretty easy to to get the gist of what's going on there just by looking at the paper. But opposition never lasts long. The last opposition to Vladimir Putin was told not to fly anymore, but he didn't listen.
Polonium is a poison. We got that down. Whatever you want to call it, it's a poison.
Yeah. Your time's up. Enjoy the matter of fact, you know what there, Herbie? You can fly for free for the rest of your life.
Peanuts, vodka,
parachute, cigars, cigarettes, Tiparillos. So anyway, yeah, I kind of wish they'd go back to that system of the two holidays. I think that we would do ourselves well in school to learn more about our presidents. I mean, I'm afraid to think. I always watch that. The old Jay Leno bit, or the old. I mean, it goes back to Steve Allen, where they would just have somebody out in the street. They would ask him questions, and every time they go out with a geography question or go out with a a civics question, they always seem to uncover the worst civic people in the world, the people who know nothing about civics or where countries are or geography or where states are.
And they're not the least bit bothered by it.
No, there's no embarrassment. We've lost our ability to be embarrassed in this nation.
Yeah.
We've lost that thing that goes off, that little thing that ticks off in us that says you should be embarrassed of yourself.
You should have known that.
You should be. You don't know that. You shouldn't go on TV. I love reality shows. Sometimes I say, how in the world could you, knowing you knew that your life was like this, how could you go on TV? You knew you had, a baby mama living down the block from you, or this or that, or
there's some gaps in your education. You knew you weren't that good on geography.
You just know that there's some things that need to be addressed in your life, but yet you go on television where everybody can see it, and nobody can. You can't hide from it, and you go on.
I like that bit. So Jay Leno did it. Kimmel has done it. Steve Allen did it. The man on the street. It's foolproof. You're going to have gold sooner or later, and do it live so that everybody gets it at the same time. And if we were going to do another show, I would work that into a bit that I would enjoy doing once a week at least. Mikey and Vinnie, man on the street.
Yeah.
Or human on the street.
Mad on the street, I'd like. Mikey and Vinnie mad on the street. Where but again, even these days when Kimmel does it where he sends somebody out who's like a news reporter and they fake up some story. And then they go from there with the story. And the reality is people, you could go to people and say, tell them that the president resigned this morning.
And they go, oh, yeah.
And they'll go, oh, yeah, I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yes, it's amazing the stuff that they put over on people to make them look like they're not paying attention. Hard to call anybody stupid, but, well, it's not that hard, actually. But,
not if you're talking about Coach Tuberville.
Well, yeah.
Coach Tommy, that's a stupid man.
Yeah, but that's it. When you have leaders of the country who are embarrassed at their stupidity, how do you expect the average citizen to be embarrassed at their lack of knowledge of a certain subject that they should be, it requires an 8th grade education. I mean, 8th grade education, you should know at least the states and where the states are. Do you think that either Trump or J.D. Vance could tell you where every state is and name all 50 of them?
They would say if they knew the state, it was their state, that they had won every time by a landslide. If they didn't know what it was for losers. They didn't need to know.
Yeah.
The downside of stupidity, the Barnum Bailey definition of a sucker is an American tradition, and the sucker doesn't even get the feeling of embarrassment. I bought the snake oil. I don't know why I did it. It was my last $10. I had to have it. I'm a sucker. They'll never adjust themselves in that way. But the guy who sold it to him he'll gladly say, "You're a peahead. You're an idiot. You're a moron. You're a maroon. I sold you snake oil." Who would believe the claims I made about this product? Why would you give me $10 for it? How can everyone stand in line and know that they're at a carnival and they're buying patent medicine? Don't be an idiot. Of course, you knew it was no good.
That's what we have, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we have. We have people that they know what they're seeing is wrong, but maybe they don't want to admit it. Maybe they just need a hero. I mean, he's the hero I pick, but everybody, they say everybody needs a hero, right?
Yeah, we do.
This woman would have made a good president.
She might have known why pitchers and catchers come before everybody else. Why do they go to spring training on their own and make secret pacts with one another? When I give you 3 fingers, it means the screwball. Don't forget the screwball. It's your best pitch.
Screwball was her best pitch, that's for sure. In the late 30s or early 40s, they had some fun. They weren't serious about it, but some people thought they were. And the publicity hounds in Hollywood came up with a campaign to run Gracie Allen for president. And from what I've read, I wasn't here at the time. From what I've read, she actually gained some traction. She got some votes.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
And I don't know. They did. I guess I was reading about it. They did a whistle stop train tour, which was popular in those days.
Huh.
And they rented a train and they took her out in the country, and people really thought she was running for president.
I wonder, was it legal for a woman to run for president in those days? Was it possible for her?
Yeah, they had I think the first woman that ran for president ran in I want to say like 1900 something. I mean, when was the suffragettes? Was that 19?
Well, through the 20s, women still couldn't vote. I don't know what the date was when they won when the amendment to the Constitution went through and was ratified. I don't know what year that was. One of our female fans should know.
So Victoria Woodhull was the first woman to run for president of the United States. She campaigned in 1872.
Well, I went to school with some kids named
before
Woodhull.
Women gained the right to vote. She was also under the constitutional age requirement of 35.
35.
Her platform was she advocated for women's suffrage, 8-hour workdays, and civil service reform. She selected Frederick Douglass as her vice presidential candidate. She had radical views on free love and advocacy for sexual freedom.
There you go. That's how you never get elected in this country.
Not my vote. She received no electoral votes. Her run was a significant but symbolic milestone for women's political participation. The one I was thinking of was Belva Lockwood. I remember. I don't remember her. I mean, I remember reading about her. She was 1884, and then the one that I do remember, I'm sure you remember this, was the senator from Maine. Maine, yes, Maine. Margaret Chase Smith.
Yes.
Who was name was bantered about in the 1964 presidential primaries on the Republican side. Margaret Chase Smith, Henry Cabot Lodge, Goldwater wound up winning the nomination. But I remember asking my father about it because it was foreign to me that a woman would be running, but he knew all about her. And told me about it, said she didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning anything, but it was nice that they considered her.
And it was nice also that the small fringe political parties that didn't have a chance to influence the outcome of the presidential election would often nominate a female to perhaps gather more people to their cause. Women would theoretically come to vote for them.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was probably seen as a attention-grabbing novelty thing. Mm-hmm. Although this Victoria Woodhull seems to be very, very interesting. She garnered enough attention that the newspapers would call her Mrs. Satan. Now, obviously, they never met the current president.
Satan himself.
But there you go, 1872. She, let's see, I'm just trying to see if there's some other stuff in here. I'm just looking at this great page on the Center for American Women in Politics, and have Woodhull, Lockwood, Lena Springs chaired the Credentials Committee. Chaired the Credentials Committee. I thought it said chaired.
I like it the other way. Let's go back to the way it was.
Chaired the Credentials Committee at the DNC in 1924, and India Edwards and Judge Sarah Hughes were considered as Democratic vice presidential candidates.
Oh,
But they both withdrew their names, so Adlai Stevenson and Estes Kefauver could be nominated by acclamation.
now that's something you don't see very often. A name like that, Estes Kefauver. That
No,
is
you don't see that. As a matter of fact, I think the
that's a
mafia
mouthful.
probably stationed people in churches. If anybody wanted to baptize their kid Kefauver, they weren't got a talking to.
There you go. This is your choice. Don't make a terrible choice and have to. We don't want to step in the Kefauver business, but we will. Estes Kefauver or any name close to that, we'll be there knocking on your door. Michael, do you respect Satan in all his works?
Yeah, exactly. Shirley Chisholm, we all remember the congresswoman from Brooklyn who gave George McGovern a run for his money back in '72. A lot of people think that she might have been a better president than George McGovern.
George had the right idea, but he was not in any way an effective candidate in terms of getting votes. Everything else about his candidacy was top notch. Getting votes, not so much.
Yeah, he was. He was just not. Didn't have a lot going for her. LaDonna Harris in 1980 was the first Native American woman nominee for vice president of the United States. She ran on the Citizens Party ticket. And then, of course, we come to 1984 and my congresswoman, Geraldine Ferraro, who was the secretary of the Democratic caucus and became the first woman ever to run on a major party's national ticket, selected by Fritz Mondale.
I've forgotten this, but I interviewed Jimmy Breslin at the Democratic National Convention in San Francisco at the Moscone Center in 1990, whatever year they ran. And Jimmy Breslin said that Geraldine Ferraro's husband was a great American male. Her son had run into Jimmy Breslin's car while it was parked on the street, damaged it, and the father came to him and said, "I'm paying for it. The kid's going to pay me. Get it fixed. Don't worry about it. Don't feel obligated because of your position in the community to cut me slack. We're not going to do it that way. I'm paying for your car. We're going to take care of this. Don't worry about it." And Jimmy thought that was the height of male camaraderie, to honor something terrible that had happened, everyday stuff. But when you find your car banged on the street, what are your options? You don't have many. So he thought that the Ferraros were great people, were powerful people, should be entrusted with the reins of government, and Geraldine Ferraro should be supported. And for that reason, he was telling this story about the family, their ne'er-do-well son, the father who was honorable, and the mother who was a political powerhouse. Great Americans. Jimmy Breslin went on and on about them, and only the way he could. As if he was talking about the New York Mets, he was talking about the Ferraro family and what it was like to have your car parked in the street in their neighborhood, and what could befall you if you did.
He was, Geraldine was cousin to my family lawyer, who was Nick Ferraro, state senator, Nicholas Ferraro, who represented the 13th Senate district from Astoria and Jackson Heights and part of Long Island City. And he had a law office down on Steinway Street, right down a block from where they built Steinway pianos. And he was one of those guys that if something happened he was, I think I've told a story to you a few times about, there were certain politicians in New York that if something happened, you went and saw them and they straightened it out. You didn't need to call the cops. You didn't need to call this. You didn't need to call that. You just needed to go see Nick. and he was part of the Democratic Club in Astoria was named Tamniant Hall, not Tammany Hall, but
Tamiant?
Tamniant Hall. It was Tamminient, I believe.
Why did they go to
Tamniant.
such why did they go to such lengths to make it a Tammany Hall?
Well, because they wanted it to sound like it was Tammany Hall, um, and it
In their
was
mind it was.
in their mind it was, and it was a place where if you had things that had to get done in the neighborhood, you went and saw somebody there. If you knew somebody there, you could get things done. And Ferraro was part of that, and I believe his cousin was too. I know the Zaccaro, the father, the husband, he was, uh, and another guy that was part of that group was Andrew Di Paola, who wound up being the county executive for Nassau County for many years and ran for governor, I think once or twice at least.
On the payola ticket.
On the Paola ticket. Great name, right?
Yeah.
But that's how politics worked back there. I'm surprised that more of that stuff along those lines didn't come out about Geraldine when she was running. And I don't know how much she had in it. So you never know. You never know with these things. But from everybody that talked about her, she was a pretty clean apple, which was interesting because she replaced a guy that was not a clean guy. This guy Tom Delaney, who was a Tamnian tall guy.
Yeah, definitely.
But people in 1980, I think, wanted to break from that old system. Some younger people were coming in. Anyway, continuing down this list just to look. Elizabeth Dole wanted to run for president. Remember her?
Yeah.
Bob Dole's wife? She wanted to run for the 2000 election. Carol Moseley Brown in there. And of course, we get to Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, Governor Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann, Jill Stein.
Michelle Bachmann. How could I forget her?
Yeah, it was she had a disappointing showing in the Iowa caucuses, which has got to be a bad signal when you're in the state next door.
Yeah. When you really know where Iowa is, and they know where you are.
Yeah. Then Carly Fiorina. And then in 2019, 6 women formally announced their candidacy for president. Let's see. Can you give me any 3?
Well,
you got Harris. She actually was the second one to run. And then I'll give you the list: Gabbard, Gillibrand, Harris, Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Marianne Williamson.
And who is Marianne Williamson?
She was that kind of woo-woo one. She had some woo-woo stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. She had a futuristic cosmetic company and a gathering of the great minds to grok on one image of the future of, I don't know. I remember Marianne Williamson. She had a book and she had a show and she had a webcast.
She had a bunch of
products.
I kind of remember her buying time on radio stations. If I was right, she was buying dollar for holler time on radio stations to put her story out there well before the election. And then I saw her in one. I think she was on in one debate, wasn't she?
Yeah, and did not shine.
And was who is this nut job kind of territory. So
She had a hard time.
I think probably the best. Listen, I know she wasn't ever going to be the popular choice, but the one that I think impressed me out of all of these women was Klobuchar. She was probably the one that I would look at that group of 2019 and say she would have done the best job at running the country.
She is one of the senators that's always available for television, no matter what. She's on
Never
television
met a
every
camera
night.
she didn't like.
And that gives me pause. That tells me that that person has needs that are extra political, beyond the politics of left or right. She wants to be on the media. She wants her opinion considered. She wants to say her piece, but have everybody listen to it. And I think that's probably a bad sign.
Yeah, I thought that about it because she is readily available for any interview. But, when you're running for president and you don't have a name like a Hillary Clinton, you probably got to do that, right?
You got to do it.
I mean, you walk kind of a fine line if you're in Minnesota or, any of those states, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. Well, Illinois probably not so much because Illinois got Chicago pretty well. Maybe Indiana falls into that category.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, some of those places where there's not a lot of big media markets. So if you want to be a candidate from those places, you probably have to come up with some kind of device to get yourself known.
I don't know how you get it in their minds that when they need a quote, they've got to call you. But sooner or later, you train the press to do that, and they're booking you for the 6 o'clock news.
Probably the first time that you go on when they run out of a guest for Face the Nation, or the guest doesn't show up for Face the Nation, and Margaret Brenner's producers calls you and says, "Can you be down here in 15 minutes?"
If you can save their bacon, they will not forget it. Believe me.
We got a car with the engine running and the heater going in front of your house. Yep. Don't worry, we'll only shoot you. Just wear a blouse. We'll shoot you from the waist up. We will.
Right.
Just get here.
And face our nation.
And face our nation. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. We'll make something up.
Don't you worry about that. We'll keep it going. I'll do my end. You do your end.
Exactly. We'll keep it going. Don't you worry about it. We're experienced at this kind of thing. Well, anyway, it's been an interesting conversation about President's Day. I'm glad that we. I'm surprised that that our president hasn't tried to turn it into Trump Day. Well, but give him time. He's got 3 years to go that he can.
The fascinating thing about all those presidents is that when the country was being formed, the one guy who was the intellectual stalwart for the whole nation was Benjamin Franklin, who never ran for office, who never held office, who was appointed ambassador, was appointed to special commissions, was appointed and entrusted with doing things to further the nation, to organize the nation. And he made it clear that we were either going to hang together or we were all going to hang separately. And I thought that quote is probably the best idea of what a revolution is like. What was it like, Benjamin? Well, we damn close to being hung by the British. That's how it was like. Every day was our dance with our own death, which was in the balance of everything that we were hoping for. All the fine ideals that we wrote about and all the freedom of religion and freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. It's all wonderful, but it doesn't mean much if you're hanging by the end of a British rope. And that's how close we came to being sacrificing our lives for the idea of having our own country.
It was he was a smart man not to get elected because then he didn't owe anything, I guess, to anybody, right? He didn't owe. He owed it to other politicians, I guess, but he wasn't really a politician. He was probably too smart to be a politician.
His son was not too smart to be a politician. His son was a royalist. His son split with the revolutionaries and supported the king. So that's what it was like being home with the Franklins. There was something to discuss at dinner.
And that started a long tradition of sons splitting with their fathers over national issues.
Indeed.
It wasn't easy to go home for dinner in my house in the 60s either.
Well, did you have the hat to protect you when you went in the door?
I did not have the hat I had a hat, but I needed a hard hat, and I had less than that. Matter of fact, I had probably something like this. But yes, I'll have to put my revolutionary hat now, my tricorn, away until the 4th of July.
By then, the pitchers and catchers will be warmed up, and maybe they can play ball by then.
Well, they're supposed to be there, and already we're dealing with injuries, and I'm not happy about it. But it appears that
the Mets or the Mariners.
The Mets, Francisco Lindor,
oh dear,
has a damaged hand, I believe, and is going to have surgery, or probably has had surgery already over the weekend, and will probably miss at least some of the first part of the season. So,
well, it's still early.
It's early, yes, and it'll be early until July 4th.
Well, go Mets. I wish you good fortune. I know what it's like to have the other kind.
Yeah, well, the Giants are. Well, I don't know what they're looking like this year.
We might surprise some people.
They've added some mid-level names.
Yes.
And everybody
at the corners and everywhere.
Yeah, the lucky thing is that they'll have a perfect excuse for a year or two. They have a manager who's never managed in the majors before. Never hasn't even been a major leaguer, right?
Right.
So, if you want to find somebody to take the blame, that's about as easy as you can get.
I wonder what sort of introduction to the game he will have as a result of never having managed before. And I wonder who's going to be his bench jockey. Who's going to be his right-hand man?
Oh, I think Ron Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I saw that Ron Washington was going to be his bench coach. Maybe I mixed that up, but I thought it was I thought it to be Ron Washington, which is not a bad choice actually. As choices go for coaches, that's a guy with managerial experience and
just finished with the Angels last year.
Yeah, was sick for a while, but has recovered.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, where is what Tony Vitello is learning from entertaining infield coach Ron Washington.
Good.
So I think he is the bench coach as well.
And I recommend, of course, reading Can Anybody Here Play This Game? Because it'll give you some perspective on what happens when the game doesn't quite go your way.
Should be required reading for every major leaguer, or the ones that can read.
That's not everybody,
Not everybody. No, we know that. Unfortunately, a sad thing that there are more than it'd be an interesting stat to find out. More than the national average or less than the national average of baseball players that can read.
Well, who was the least educated player in history? Vinegar Ben Mizell?
There had to be dumber ones than that.
The pitcher of the loony one, with the brother who was his catcher.
Oh, Dizzy and Daffy Dean?
Dizzy and Daffy Dean. There you go.
Yeah.
Dizzy wasn't ignorant. He was just humorously removed from education.
Yeah, I'm wondering, it'd be an interesting question. I mean, I'm sure that there's been players that they picked up off the farm that had no education.
Right.
Had no idea of how the world worked. So All right. Being as we do have an idea as how the world works, would you like to try this again on Wednesday?
Let's try it. What time do you think?
Well, let's shoot for 10:10.
10:10 it is. I like the sound of it. Vinnie, you
By
look
the way,
distinctive. Yes.
I'm gonna send you a couple of links I found on the internet on the web here. Some full hour tapes of WMCA in New York from 1965 and 66.
They're fake?
No, they're air checks.
Okay.
I guess they're from lager tapes, but they're the
Wow.
full tapes
Full
with all
broadcast.
the music and everything.
All the music, all the spots.
All the music, all the spots. The spots are great to listen to. I mean, some spots that I hadn't remembered, or hadn't heard in many, 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 many years are on there. And it is Dean Anthony and Jack Spector.
Jack Spector.
And what's interesting is the breadth of music. ABC was very tightly formatted. It had a variance of music, but it was tightly for WMCA ran the gamut and played a lot more black music than I remember them playing.
Huh. Good.
So it's interesting. I'll have to, like I said, I have to send you the links to the tape, and you can listen to it, and not not hits, but stuff that wasn't necessarily a hit, like Billy Stewart's like third or fourth record after Summertime and I Do Love You. Going deeper into what he was doing. It was. I thought it was interesting. I'll be interested in hearing what you think about it.
Great. I love that. Thanks, Vin.
I'll shoot you those. All right, man. I'll see you on Wednesday if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise.
That's what it'll be Wednesday right here, folks. No Wacky
Peace,
Wednesday.
love, and Manischewitz, baby.
What a wine, baby. See you.
Thank
Happy
you for
President's
listening.
Day.
Bye-bye now.